Before he threw a single pass in the NFL, the most powerful voices in professional football looked at a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and told him to switch positions. Bill Polian, a Hall of Fame general manager who had built Super Bowl rosters, stood in front of cameras and said Lamar Jackson should play wide receiver.
Lamar Jackson would be better suited as a wide receiver.
Hall of Fame NFL executive Bill Polian made news this week by admitting he was wrong for stating before the 2018 NFL Draft that Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson should switch to wide receiver.
Multiple teams at the NFL Scouting Combine reportedly requested he run routes with the wideouts. Mel Kiper Jr., the most recognizable name in draft analysis, had him projected at 15 and falling. On draft night, every single team in the league passed on him at least once. All 32 of them. Lamar Jackson's response to all of it was 3 words he repeated every time someone put a microphone in front of him: strictly a quarterback.
We know he's a great athlete. The questions are, is he a great quarterback? Or has he evolved, or has he begun the process of evolution as from a college quarterback to a pro quarterback?
Lamar Jackson was born on January 7, 1997, in Pompano Beach, Florida, and the city he grew up in was not built to make things easy. Pompano Beach sits in Broward County, an area that has historically battled poverty, crime, and limited opportunity. The families who raised children there had to fight for outcomes that other kids in other zip codes received by default. When Lamar was 8 years old in 2005, his father, Lamar Jackson Sr., died of a heart attack, and on that same day his grandmother passed away too. The family lost 2 people in a single afternoon. Lamar later described that moment on the Dan Patrick Show by saying simply,
I was hurt. I was crying a lot. My father passed, but my mom found out my grandma passed.
His mother, Felicia Jones, became the only structure holding the family together. She raised Lamar, his younger brother, and his 2 younger sisters on her own, in a neighborhood that gave her very little help doing it. What Felicia built in that house was intentional. She developed what she called the Super 8: God, prayer, faith, family, education, sacrifice, character, and discipline. These were not motivational words on a wall. At age 7, before he had ever played organized football, Felicia put Lamar and his brother through demanding physical workouts. By the time Lamar reached Boynton Beach High School in Florida, what his mother had built was already visible. He finished his high school career with 69 passing touchdowns and another 49 on the ground. He won the Lou Groza Award for High School Player of the Year. College programs across the country were offering him, and he chose the University of Louisville specifically because of the opportunity to start immediately and develop as a quarterback. What he did at Louisville in his sophomore year in 2016 is the number that changes every conversation about his draft stock. He threw for 3,543 yards and 30 touchdowns. He rushed for 1,571 yards and 21 touchdowns. He accounted for over 9,000 passing yards and 4,000 rushing yards across 3 seasons at Louisville. He won the Heisman Trophy that year, becoming the youngest recipient in the award's history at 19 years and 337 days old. He also won the Walter Camp Award for the nation's top collegiate player and the Maxwell Award for the best all-around player in college football. This was not a player on the fringe of first-round conversation. This was the most decorated college football player in the country. Louisville's director of player development watched Jackson prepare every week and described his work ethic as something he had never seen from a player his age. He did not just study film, he broke down opposing defenses the way graduate assistants do, identifying tendencies and building mental maps of every coverage he was likely to face. The production at Louisville was impossible to argue with. In 3 seasons, Jackson ran an offense that had to carry an entire program on his back, because the supporting cast was not at the level of programs like Alabama or Ohio State. He still delivered historic numbers regardless. The completion percentage of 59.1 was the primary criticism that scouts attached to his name, but that number came from a system that asked him to push the ball downfield constantly without the kind of receiving talent that inflates completion rates at bigger programs. What scouts saw on tape was a player who could diagnose a blitz before the snap, extend plays with his legs in a way no quarterback since Michael Vick had demonstrated, and deliver the ball with enough velocity and touch to hit every window on the field. Quarterback Michael Vick himself said at the time that he could not remember a faster player lining up at the quarterback position other than himself. That is a direct comparison from the only player in recent memory who had done what Jackson was doing, and scouts still buried the tape and reached for a narrative about position changes. At the 2018 NFL Combine, the conversation reached its peak absurdity. Peter Schrager of NFL Network reported that multiple teams had requested Jackson work out with the wide receivers. Jackson walked to the podium and delivered his answer without hesitation. "No teams have asked me to play wide receiver. I don't even know where it comes from. I'm strictly quarterback." Yes, sir, he did not run the 40-yard dash at the Combine, which sparked further controversy. He made the same choice at his pro day. He was sending a message that he was not there to perform tricks for organizations that had already made up their minds. On draft night in 2018, the board moved in ways that no analysis had predicted. Baker Mayfield went first, Sam Darnold went third, Josh Rosen went 10th, Josh Allen went 7th. Lamar Jackson, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, who had just produced one of the most statistically dominant seasons in college football history, sat there as pick after pick went by. The Baltimore Ravens, holding the final selection of the first round at 32nd overall, had already taken tight end Hayden Hurst at 25th.
With the 25th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, Hayden Hurst.
There you go,
tight
DJ.
end, South Carolina.
Then they traded back up into the first round specifically to get Jackson before the second round began. They grabbed him at 32, the very last pick of the first round.
With the 32nd pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, Lamar Jackson.
There it is.
Wow. Quarterback.
Jackson later reflected on that night on social media. When the NFL posted a clip referencing his draft selection, his response was direct. All 32 said, "Nah, I'm a FW." All 32 teams passed on him. The last pick of the first round was the only team willing to commit, and they had to trade up twice in the same night to do it. Baltimore then did something that confirmed they understood exactly what they had. They sat him behind Joe Flacco for the first half of the 2018 season and brought him on slowly. When he took over as the starter mid-season, he led the Ravens to the playoffs in his first year. The following year, 2019, is where every argument against him was permanently buried. In his second season as a starter, Lamar Jackson threw for 3,127 yards and 36 touchdowns. He broke Michael Vick's single-season rushing record for a quarterback with 1,206 yards on the ground. And he did it while sitting out the final regular season game. The Ravens went 14-2, the best record in the NFL. Their offense averaged 33.2 points per game, the highest mark in the league. Jackson became only the second player in NFL history to win the MVP award, unanimously receiving all 50 first-place votes. Tom Brady in 2010 was the only other player to accomplish that. Jackson was 23 years old. In his post-game press conference after a 5-touchdown performance against the Miami Dolphins to open that season, he looked at the cameras and said, "Not bad for a running back." Every person in that room understood exactly who he was talking to. After the unanimous MVP, a new doubt emerged, one that followed him for the next several years. Lamar Jackson could not win in the playoffs. The Ravens lost to the Tennessee Titans in the divisional round after the 2019 season. They lost again in subsequent postseason appearances. Critics pointed to those exits as evidence that his style of play had a ceiling, that defenses would eventually solve him, that the regular season numbers were a product of a system and not a reflection of a player who could perform when everything was on the line. What made that narrative particularly difficult for Jackson was that it landed alongside a contract dispute that became one of the most watched standoffs in recent NFL history. He chose to negotiate his own extension without an agent, which the league was not accustomed to seeing the Ravens place the franchise tag on him. Reports surfaced in 2023 that he had formally requested a trade. The situation dragged through the off-season and into the spring. Then, in April 2023, Baltimore signed him to a 5-year contract worth $260 million, making it the largest contract in NFL history at the time. Jackson thanked the organization at his MVP acceptance speech the following February by saying, "I want to thank my organization, the Baltimore Ravens, for finally getting the deal done. The 2023 season was Lamar Jackson's direct answer to every remaining question. Playing in his first year under new offensive coordinator Todd Monken, he set a career high in both completion percentage and passing yards, finishing with 3,678 yards, 24 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. The Ravens went 13-4, the best record in the AFC. He won his second MVP award, receiving 49 of 51st place votes and falling one short of a second unanimous selection. He joined Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers as the only active players to win the award more than once, and joined a list of 11 players in league history to be a multiple MVP winner. Bill Polian, the Hall of Fame general manager, who told the world that Lamar Jackson should play wide receiver, watched all of this happen. The Chargers scout who first raised the position change conversation watched all of this happen. The 31 organizations that passed on him with at least one pick watched all of this happen. And Lamar Jackson, the kid from Pompano Beach who lost his father at 8 years old and was raised by a mother who built him from the ground up on faith and discipline, is still playing quarterback, still running the offense, still winning MVP awards. The NFL tried to redirect him, reclassify him, and reduce him to something smaller than what he actually was. He did not argue, he did not hold press conferences, he just kept playing at a level that made every one of those conversations impossible to continue. That is what it looks like when the thing they tried to silence refuses to be quiet. Watch this next video if you haven't already, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.